All right, so today we're going to get into something really fascinating, the hidden connection between chaos, crowds, and the invisible order that, believe it or not, runs our lives. We're going to look at how a bunch of random people can somehow be smarter than a single expert, and then how that exact same idea completely breaks down in the world we live in today. Honestly, this might change how you see everything, from your own messy desk all the way up to social media.
Okay, let's start by just thinking about a word we use all the time, chaos, right? You say your inbox is chaotic, or the commute this morning was just total chaos. But what if that's not chaos at all? What if, like this quote says, the very fact that we can even notice that small stuff is a luxury, a sign that there's this gigantic, invisible system of order that's working almost perfectly underneath it all.
And that leads us straight to our first big idea here, what we can call the illusion of chaos. The source material we're digging into makes this really compelling point, which is that for most of us in our modern world, we've totally forgotten what real chaos actually is. Yeah, I mean, this just lays it out perfectly. On the left, that's our chaos. A busy inbox, traffic, annoying? Yeah, for sure. But look at the right side. That's real chaos. No running water, the power going out across the whole city. The only reason we can afford to get worked up about our little frustrations is because this massive, invisible system of order is just humming along in the background, doing its job.
So, you know, that little bit of creative mess we kinda like? It's a total privilege. It's a luxury that's built on this deep, deep foundation of order. But if we can look past this illusion of chaos, we find something way more powerful, way more mysterious, an order that actually comes from groups themselves. It's called the wisdom of crowds. So let's get into this because it's a really wild idea, the wisdom of crowds. Basically, it says that if you get the conditions just right, a huge group of totally ordinary people can be shockingly smart. I mean, often smarter than the single smartest person in that entire group. The classic way to see this in action is with an experiment, like one that happened at a conference back in 2016. So picture this. A speaker gets on stage, holds up a giant jar full of candy, and just asks everyone in the audience to write down their best guess of how many are inside. Now, of course, the guesses are all over the map. You've got one person guessing 650, another person guessing, 1,200. On their own, every single individual guess is almost guaranteed to be wrong. They're just shots in the dark, right? Basically noise. But something pretty magical happens when you put all that noise together. When you collect every single one of those independent guesses and just calculate the average, the result is incredibly accurate. In this real example, the average guess was 871. The actual number of candies in the jar? 873. It was only off by 2. That's the wisdom of crowds. As long as people are thinking for themselves, their collective answer can be almost perfect. Okay, but hold on. This raises a massive question. If crowds are so smart, then why is so much of the internet, well, the way it is? Why do we see so much collective foolishness? Well, it turns out there's a poison that corrupts this whole system. And it's something we do all day, every day. We talk to each other. The magic of the crowd just vanishes the second people start talking. It's kind of ironic, but communication is what introduces the bias. All it takes is one loud, confident person who might be totally wrong to act as an anchor. You can see it there in step 3. They just pull the entire group's average way off course, and that collective genius just evaporates. It turns into groupthink. And here they are. These are the things that poison the well. Crosstalk, influencers, echo chambers, and that deep down human need to just fit in. So instead of a wise crowd, you get a mob. And of course, no system in human history has ever amplified these corrupting factors more than social media. Which brings us right to our reality and social media's new rules. See, the rise of the internet wasn't just another invention, like the phone or something. The argument from our source material is that it was a fundamental change to the operating system of humanity itself. I mean, just think about that metaphor. It's as if the entire planet's central nervous system just flickered on. We went from a world that was pretty slow and disconnected to essentially a planetary brain, with billions of us acting like neurons, all firing at once in this constant global conversation. And you can really see that shift here. I mean, think about it. Somebody who grew up in the 1980s, when you had like 3 TV channels creating a single shared reality for everyone, They have a fundamentally different kind of mental wiring than someone who grew up inside the constant, swirling, global conversation of the social media era. And this quote just nails the paradox we're living in. Our one shared collective reality, it's shattered into a million different pieces. Everyone's watching their own thing. But at the very same time, our individual lives, our posts, our videos, our mistakes, they're now recorded for good, searchable, and can be picked apart by anyone forever. So, what do we do? How do we even begin to navigate this new world? Well, this brings us to our last section, which uses this incredible story from the writer Jorge Luis Borges to frame our challenge. It's a story about two very different kinds of labyrinths. So in the story, one king builds a labyrinth, like the one on the left. It's a man-made maze, it's complicated, it's a technical puzzle, but it has a solution. There's a way out. But in revenge, a second king takes him to God's labyrinth, the desert. And a desert is an existential challenge. There are no walls, there's no path, there is no single exit. You can't solve it. You can only learn to survive it through endurance and adaptation. And here it is. This is the crucial point. We so often treat our biggest, messiest problems, things like political polarization, or even finding meaning in our own lives, we treat them like they're man-made mazes. We're always looking for that one simple trick, that one technical fix, that one expert who has the map to the exit. But what if our deepest challenges aren't mazes at all? What if we're actually lost in a desert and we need a totally different way of thinking? And that's really the big provocative question we're left with. Are our problems a maze that can be solved? Or are they a desert that we have to learn to navigate together? The source material actually hints at a little bit of optimism. The idea is that humanity isn't just a passive victim of this new hyper-connected world. For the first time, we're becoming collectively aware of the system we're all in. And with that awareness comes the potential to finally stop looking for a single exit and maybe, just maybe, start learning how to walk through the desert together.